Happy Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into another week of Morning JOX. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you as we recap yet another wild weekend of the college football season. And this Monday going to be a little different than the Mondays that we've had for, it's been a couple of years since we've had a Monday like this, in fact. And obviously, if you have not been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, you already know the big news of the day. Of course, that is that Auburn parted ways with head coach Hugh Freeze yesterday in a decision that I think a lot of you had been hoping for some time now, and that finally came to fruition. And we were up here yesterday, a number of us from JOX doing kind of an emergency broadcast yesterday afternoon. We were up here from 1 to 3, just kind of going over the situation, giving our immediate thoughts, and appreciate so many of you that joined us yesterday and made your voices heard. And we hope that you'll do the same with us here this morning, because we obviously have a lot to get into. There's a lot of ways to look at this, not only why this happened for Auburn, why ultimately the Kentucky loss was the final straw for Hugh Freeze and his tenure there on the Plains, but we've got to start looking ahead as well to not only the rest of the season with DJ Durkin now as the interim head coach, but obviously into the future and who the next guy will be to lead the Auburn football program. And I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of thoughts on the directions that you would like that coaching search to go, and particular people that you are hoping to see in that position. And there's just there's a lot that goes on around it. So we're going to have a jam-packed show for you today. But, of course, we always want to hear from you, 205-834-9450, and your thoughts on the big news of the day, Hugh Freeze being fired by Auburn yesterday. And it comes on the heels of Auburn, their loss to Kentucky on Saturday, in which they were only able to muster 3 points against one of the worst teams in the SEC and the Kentucky Wildcats. And I think it's a case where, the performance on Saturday was so bad that you couldn't, it forced John Cohen's hand, essentially. That's kind of how I look at it, right? Is I really do think that they wanted Hugh Freeze to finish out the season and, see, maybe you could get a big win over Vanderbilt or an Alabama. If you had beaten Kentucky, you felt pretty good about you're going to go to a bowl game, right? And what does that ultimately look like? But when you follow up, your first SEC win of the season against a not very good Arkansas team, and then you return home to play Kentucky and a team that's giving up 30 points a game this season to their opposition, and you can only score 3. It's kind of hard to defend it at that point. And so we can get a little more into the game in a little bit, and ultimately why that maybe will be the last game that Hugh Freeze coaches in the SEC. The reality of it is, Auburn, you need a new head football coach. You're now on the hook for a $15.8 million buyout with Coach Hugh Freeze. But the good news is the way that this is going to work, it's not a lump sum payment that somebody's going to have to go and write a check immediately. But Hugh Freeze is going to collect a cool $406,000 a month through January of 2029. So that's how that is going to be administered out to Hugh Freeze over the next couple of years. And now when you look back over their last 3 head coaching fires, and Gus Malzahn, Brian Harsin, and Hugh Freeze, Auburn currently paying $52.5 million in buyout money for their last few coaches, which, okay, to be fair, that's what LSU's paying for one coach.
Yeah, it's all hindsight.
I mean, quantity over, I don't know if it's quantity over quality or what, how exactly you would say that. But the reality is Hugh Freeze was fired because he didn't win. He didn't win enough games at Auburn. He didn't win the big games at Auburn, and he didn't win enough games in SEC play. So almost 3 years at the helm there on the Plains of Auburn, and Hugh Freeze finishes his Auburn career with a 15-19 overall record, a 6-16 record in conference play. He only won 1 game against a ranked opponent in almost 3 years at Auburn. Of course, that was the Texas A&M game last year. So he finishes with a 1-12 record against ranked opponents as the head coach at Auburn. And we all know, as far as this season goes, right, it started off, optimistic, right? You started off 3-0, but now in the last 6 games, you've gone 1-5 in conference play. And look, we all know, right? There's been bad officiating, things that haven't gone Auburn's way this year. But when you just look at the totality of the performances, you can't point to that for every loss that you had. It's not the reason that you're sitting there at 4-5, right? It may be the reason that you lost a game or two, but it's not the reason that you are trending towards having another losing season there at Auburn. This year, Auburn 15th in the SEC in total yards per game, 14th in scoring. For an offensive head coach, that's obviously not the numbers that you're looking for. And when you look at his tenure in 22 games in SEC play, he only had Auburn score more than 24 points 5 times in 22 SEC games. So the offense was just never really there in his time at Auburn.
But they were so close.
They were, and they were so close for so long, Damian. And unfortunately, I think that time started to run out. So yesterday, Athletic Director John Cohen released a statement on the decision to part ways with Hugh Freeze, and I'll read that to you now. It goes, quote, "I've informed Coach Freeze of my decision to make a change in leadership with the Auburn football program. Coach Freeze is a man of integrity, and we are appreciative of his investment in Auburn and relentless work over the last 3 years in bolstering our roster. Our expectations for Auburn football are to annually compete for championships, and the search for the next leader of Auburn football begins immediately." You also had head coach Hugh Freeze, who he released his own statement on social media yesterday. It's very long. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but it's him talking about how grateful he was for his time on the Plains and reflecting on, everything that he's learned and everything he's gotten to experience over the last 3 years. But I will read you this closing part of the statement from Hugh Freeze yesterday. It says, quote, "I humbly ask you to continue to fully support these student athletes as they seek to finish their season strong under Coach Durkin's leadership. It's my fervent belief that great days are ahead for the Auburn football program. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this chapter. I love this place, and I'll carry the friendships with me always. War Eagle, and God bless." So that is the official statement, part of it. It was released by Hugh Freeze yesterday. So that's the situation. That's how it is now. Auburn, they get rid of Hugh Freeze with 3 games left in the season. $15.8 million buyout headed Coach Freeze's way, and now we turn the corner to the next head coach in the future of the Auburn football program. But for you, Damian, yesterday, I think after the game on Saturday, we were all expecting this news to come down yesterday, but just your immediate thoughts on, I guess, the game on Saturday and then the announcement yesterday that Hugh Freeze was gone.
Yeah, when you're only able to muster up 3 points against a Kentucky defense that was giving up, about 35 points in the SEC, it was time to go. It was coaching malpractice on the way out. So just speaking directly on the Kentucky matchup, you start Ashton Daniels. Okay, it doesn't look amazing, but a lot of it was not Ashton Daniels' fault. That offensive line was terrible. Like, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. The offensive line was absolutely awful. And Alyssa Lang has Coach Freeze on the sideline, and she's just asking, how do you get this offense spark? Like, where's the spark happen? He said, oh, yeah, we're going with Jackson Arnold to start the fourth quarter. It wasn't Ashton Daniels' fault that the offense looked as bad as it did. And then Jackson Arnold goes out there and looks the exact same way as he did the reason why he was benched to begin with. And again, the offensive line was the issue. You couldn't establish the run game, and in the pass game, you didn't have much time to even get rid of the football. And then when you have the final drive to go and potentially tie the game up, you put Ashton Daniels back in. So,
well, and his explanation, though, Damian, was they needed to put Ashton back in there because the offensive line was struggling, so they needed the more mobile quarterback in the game.
Lord have mercy.
Which then leads to the question of, well, then why did you ever take him out to begin with?
Hey, thank you. Again, it was coaching malpractice on the way out. Like,
doesn't make sense.
It was one thing, for the offense to have spurts throughout the season of, all right, if it clicks, it can really look good. But the final drive kind of just, it encapsulated the entire season. This is not where we need it to be. Because defensively, they did everything. You got a turnover late. Like, the defense played at a level that if you hold a team to 10 points, you should win the football game.
I would think so.
You should win the football game.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like Cutter Boley was out there dicing them up. It was secondly, I hate Cutter Bowley's throwing motion. Like it does not look right. it just does not look right. But offensively, you hire Hugh Freeze to fix the offense. He is an offensive-minded guy. And you could see him on the sideline, and like he was saying, people are open, people are open. And I'm sitting there thinking, just, watching that as a fan of, there is no way he is watching the same game that I am. Like, there's just no possible way that he's upset that, quarterback's not letting it loose when they ain't got time to even step in and throw the football. I'm sitting there thinking, like, there's just no way he's sitting there complaining about, oh, we have guys open. They may be open, but by the time they turn around, the quarterback's either flustered out the pocket or he's down on the ground. There's no in between. So I think just all in all, this was just a bad situation altogether. And I think, for him, week after week after week, especially since SEC play has opened up, saying how close they were, you're the head coach. You should be able to help them get over this. Like, there's the whole saying that we're close like, it got old. It got old after Texas A&M. It was kind of, okay, well, how close realistically do you think this team is? Because you can't say you're void of talent. You have talent all over the football field. It's overcoming those in-game situations where if you got off script after the first drive, it just never looked like this offense knew what it wanted to do. So altogether, I thought he was going to finish out the season. I will say this: I honestly thought Hugh Freeze was going to make it to the end of the season, and they were going to make a decision. But what happened Saturday, like you said, John Cohen's hands were tied at that point. We can't keep going with this, because if you're only scoring 3 points against Kentucky, it only gets harder with Vanderbilt. Now Mercer, sorry, and then Alabama. So his hands were tied. It was a bad situation, and for all the optimism that you had coming into the season, week by week since we've opened up SEC play, it started to dwindle.
Yeah, it's again, what can you do if you're John Cohen after watching that game on Saturday? And again, you have an offensive-minded head coach, and whether, regardless of the offensive line, the quarterback play, whatever it is that's not getting the job done, the head coach is ultimately the one that goes out there and puts the roster together and determines how he wants this team to work. And, he identified Jackson Arnold and, I guess by extension, Ashton Daniels, since he got both of them out of the portal, as guys that he thought could run his system and guys that he thought would be the best fit for this Auburn offense. And clearly that did not pay dividends this season. And now, as you mentioned, you've got 3 games left. 2 of them are going to be good challenges against Vanderbilt and Alabama. You would assume the Mercer game should be a solid victory there for Auburn, but some opportunities now under DJ Durkin to see what they can do as they try to piece this thing together. But we have a lot more to talk about. We have to talk about the future. Who are the early candidates for the Auburn head coaching job? Some of them going to be familiar names because we've been talking about coaching searches a lot already this season. So you hear some familiar names, but we've got to get to the latest on that and what the future may hold for the Auburn Tigers. And we also want to hear from you, 205-834-9450. Your thoughts on Hugh Freeze getting fired and the direction you want to see this Auburn football program head in. That's all coming up next here on a Monday edition, Reaction Monday on JOX. 6:18. Welcome back into Reaction Monday here on Morning Jocks. Conrad and Damien with you until 7 a.m. Then we'll hand you off to McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Of course, after that, three-man front, and then the Paul Feinbaum show. So we've got you covered wall to wall today in terms of Hugh Freeze reaction, what's next for the Auburn Tigers, your thoughts, your reaction, all that good stuff right here all day long on JOX. And of course, if you're just now joining us, then the cat's out of the bag because Hugh Freeze was let go. They did part ways with the Auburn football program yesterday, and DJ Durkin, now the interim head coach there on the Plains, as Auburn, coming off that 10-3 loss to Kentucky on Saturday, is this isn't one of those situations like with LSU, right, where you get the bye week to get acclimated and get some new faces around there and maybe have some time for guys to process the changes that are being made. Nope, you're right into Vanderbilt prep week, and it's a Vanderbilt team that they made a valiant effort but lost to Texas over the weekend and needs a win over Auburn to keep their playoff hopes alive. So certainly going to be a good challenge there for Durkin and the Tigers this weekend, as that'll be his first game as the interim head coach there for Auburn. But Hugh Freeze, now with him on the way out, somebody new is going to have to come in, and some names that you have no doubt likely already heard or seen on social media. And we'd love to hear from you and get y'all's thoughts on who you would like to see be the Auburn head coach. But just want to throw out some names that I know people are going to be asking about, or names that people have probably heard about. And so John Sumrall, I think, is going to be at the top of a lot of people's list, the Tulane head coach, who, I mean, honestly, if you're an Auburn fan, maybe one of the better things that could have happened in your favor was Tulane losing to UTSA last week, because now maybe that sets up an opportunity for a guy like John Sumrall to perhaps not be coaching a team in the college football playoff. And that maybe allows this process to go a little bit easier if he is ultimately the guy or one of the guys that Auburn decides to go after to be the next head coach. Other names that I've heard thrown around, though, Brent Key at Georgia Tech. Again, he's done a great job with that program, obviously has them in college football playoff contention. I know that they also lost this weekend, but I think we'd all agree that he's done a fantastic job there at Georgia Tech in a rather short period of time. Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri. We've all seen what he's done the last 3 years now at Missouri, looking like he could be going for a third straight double-digit win season. I like Drink. I know he's a little weird and maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but I think he's a heck of a football coach, and he is highly entertaining, to be fair. Kenny Dillingham, the Arizona State head coach, another guy that has ties to the Auburn football program when he worked there with Gus Malzahn as a quarterbacks coach, and obviously did a great job last year getting Arizona State into a college football playoff. I've seen Clark Lee's name floated around, obviously the Vanderbilt head coach, so that kind of sets up an interesting dynamic this week with the matchup. Glenn Schumann, another name that seems to be popping up again. He's the defensive coordinator at Georgia, and is another name that you could potentially hear. I will go out there and say this. I'm not saying that these guys are absolutely not candidates for the job, but these are the names that I keep seeing people asking about, and I would be shocked if it was one of these coaches. And so Rhett Lashley's the first one, and the reason that I said I'd be shocked by that is because he just signed an extension at SMU like 3 days ago. So I think that was kind of their way of taking him off the board for a coaching change this offseason. But, maybe if that's the guy that Auburn really wants, they're still able to go and make a run at somebody like Rhett Lashley. Lane Kiffin, he's the talk of the town with LSU in Florida. We've done this before with Auburn. I guess you would never say never because it's Lane, and who knows how his mind works, but it seems to me that's don't think that one's happening. Don't think you need to be getting your hopes up on that one. And then, again, I know this is funny, but a lot of people were bringing it up and asking about it yesterday, and that's Jimbo Fisher. I do not think that Jimbo Fisher is going to be the next head coach at Auburn.
No.
I don't think you have to worry about that if you're an Auburn fan.
No, and Auburn would be just a walking joke if they did that.
I don't see that one happening. But I do think right now a lot of people, if you had to go, I think a lot of people's top pick would be John Sumrall, the head coach of Tulane. But again, somebody that's probably getting interest from LSU, maybe other jobs as well. So we will ultimately see how this plays out because, as we know, there's a lot of coaching searches going on right now. But if you're Auburn, right, and you have somebody and you identify them as your top candidate, I think you should go and make a run at them pretty quickly because there's, again, a lot of good programs looking for coaches this cycle as it stands right now. But let's turn it over to you guys. Let's hear your reaction, your thoughts to the news on Hugh Freeze. We've got a lot of texts coming in on the courtesy GMC text line, but let's go to the phones first, where we'll go to Don, who's been waiting on hold for a while. Don, how are you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm better now, Conrad. I really am. But I tell you what, Saturday night that had to be one of the worst Auburn offensive games that I've seen in a long time. I don't know if you guys were probably too young to remember, but do you remember the 3-2
Mississippi State game? Yep.
Yes, I think we actually had more yards in that game.
Yeah, anytime that you're bringing up memories of that matchup, that's not a good sign. So yeah, 3 points against Kentucky was that was the final straw.
Okay, but you guys have said everything correct this morning, and Damien brought it up that Cohen wanted to wait to the end of the year, but how you couldn't wait any longer? How could you?
Nope. He made the decision pretty easy for him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you had to do it, and I think anybody that was an Auburn fan going to bed Saturday night, you were just turning your phone on to try to get updates early in the morning, and you knew it was going to happen. I mean, you just knew it was going to happen.
Oh yeah, and that just for clarification, that 3-2 matchup, Auburn had 315 yards of total offense to Mississippi State's 116.
And I think Auburn had like 240 yards of offense on Saturday.
Yeah,
against Kentucky.
Yeah, and I don't think they would have scored it. They got when they got the field goal. Would they start the ball after Melendez's interception on the 30-yard line?
Yeah, something like that.
That was just bad. And thing, and you guys, I've been saying, I've been wiggling, changing my mind every week about and everything. I'm just glad it's over, guys, and now we can move on. But I think it's going to be either Durkin or Summerall, one of those two guys, in my opinion.
Well, DJ Durkin's certainly going to have some opportunities to make an impression. Thanks for calling in this morning, Don. Appreciate you always chiming in with your thoughts on Auburn. But hey, I mean, he's got Vanderbilt and Alabama left, right? If you win. Again, let's say you find a way to win both of those games somehow, right? That's a pretty strong audition if you're DJ Durkin to throw your name in the ring for consideration, to be the official head coach moving into the future. But I definitely think they're going to kick tires on Summerall and guys of that nature first and hope that ultimately works out for them. So we got a lot of your texts coming in, more phone calls as well, 205-834-9450. We want to open it up to you guys as we continue this discussion on Hugh Freeze and the future of the Auburn football program. And that's what we'll do on the other side. So keep sending in your thoughts, who you want to see as the next head coach. And are you happy, right? If you're an Auburn fan, did you breathe the sigh of relief yesterday that you now have some optimism that this program can get turned around and back to contending for a spot in not only SEC championships, but college football playoffs and hopefully national championships as well. So we keep hearing from you, 205-834-9450 as we roll along right here on Morning JOX. 6:31 here on a Reaction Monday. Morning JOX. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you, bringing you the latest reaction on Auburn, as they're the big headline today with their firing of Hugh Freeze yesterday. So Hugh Freeze, after not quite 3 full seasons at the helm there on the Plains, he is out after Auburn lost 10-3 to Kentucky at home on Saturday. And so that loss put Auburn at 4-5 on the season. And with Vanderbilt, Mercer, and Alabama left, going to be a little bit of an uphill battle there to get bowl eligible this season. But to be fair, we have seen UCLA, UAB, some schools with examples of an interim head coach coming in and lighting a fire, whether that's for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and having some immediate success. So we'll see if Auburn can do that this weekend when they have to travel to Nashville to take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. But again, I think, as we've discussed earlier on in the show today, it was a point at Auburn where John Cohen had no other option, right? It felt like he wanted the season to play out and go from there. But when you can only put up 3 points against one of the worst defenses in the Southeastern Conference in Kentucky, you've got an offensive line that, I could have gotten pressure on a quarterback Saturday night. I feel like with the way the offensive line was playing, you're making quarterback changes for a couple of series late in games. A lot of things that went wrong on Saturday that ultimately made it, I think, a pretty easy decision for John Cohen when all was said and done yesterday. And it was made official that this is the direction that Auburn was going to head in. And it definitely felt like, I think after the game on Saturday, if you're an Auburn fan, a lot of people felt like the writing was on the wall there, and it was a matter of when, not if, Hugh Freeze was going to be fired. And I wanted to take you back. Let's play this one clip from Saturday night. This is Hugh Freeze, because not only was the performance on the field bad on Saturday, if there was any hope of him surviving for the Vanderbilt week, I think that was taken away when he sat down in front of the microphone after the game, because not only did he once again bring up the idea of Auburn being close, but this was him, Hugh Freeze. He's being asked a question about the future of the program, and the topic of patience comes up, and it feels to me like maybe Hugh Freeze knew what was awaiting him after that loss to Kentucky on Saturday. And obviously the patience ran out, and that is ultimately why John Cohen made the decision. And I thought something that you did hear in that clip that, Greg brought up yesterday when we were doing kind of our emergency broadcast, and I thought it was a really good point. And I think in hindsight, right, you can go back and look at a lot of examples of this, but it felt like there was a lot of time during Hugh Freeze's tenure at Auburn that was spent looking back or dwelling on what didn't go Auburn's way. And unfortunately, when you get to a point where you have a head coach that after just about every loss is, bringing up the fact that this is a team that doesn't know how to win, well, I think when you spend a lot of time dwelling on calls that didn't go your way or a bounce of the ball here or there that could have changed the outcome of a game, sure, I think it's fair to point those things out at times, but it felt like he kind of hung on to a lot of those things, and you allowed situations to beat you maybe multiple times, or teams to beat you multiple times, because you kind of couldn't get over that mental hurdle, and it seemed like that maybe seeped in to the players and the team as a whole at times, and that's why we are sitting here today talking about the future of the Auburn football program. So with all that, getting you caught up with the decision there on the Plains, let's get back to your reaction, your thoughts on the phone line as well as the courtesy GMC text line. Let's get some text here quickly before we get back to your calls. Let's see. This text rolls in. It says, it almost looks like this was done on purpose. Did it not look like it was a complete different playbook for Ashton? I guess he's insinuating maybe the offense and they just kind of threw up the white flag. I don't think that's the case. I think they actively were trying to win that football game on Saturday, and they put up 3 points, which is maybe a worse reality than if they hadn't tried and they put up 3 points. Let's see. Matt chimes in. He says, the Iowa offense looks like a juggernaut compared to the Auburn offense.
You know who's one of the quarterbacks on Iowa's roster now?
Hank Brown.
Hank Brown.
That's right. This text says, Ashton Daniels was ready to fight the offensive line at the end of the game. It was rough. It says, oh, yeah, from the words of the great Hugh Freeze, we were so dang close. Eric from Cahaba Heights chimes in. He says, Auburn made a big mistake. We overreacted to one game and have set back our program for the last decade. Hugh is a great guy and a leader of men. I'm devastated for him and his family.
Something tells me there's tongue in cheek. There's some tongue in cheek there.
I just read them. Let's see. After everything that happened over the weekend with all the news, just happy and surprised Damian is here to talk about it on Monday. We are glad because Damian was on vacation last Monday when another coach was fired. So
yeah, this one's a little bit bigger.
This one's a little
closer to home.
A little bit different. Okay. We've got some text coming in about why maybe some people wouldn't want DJ Durkin to be considered for the head coaching position.
Yeah.
I'll just do a quick Google search on that one if you're not familiar with some of his previous stops. This one says, just tuning in, and you may have already mentioned it, but I'm seeing discussions. There may be talks of Jeff Traylor from UTSA being the next Auburn coach. Is this true? I have not heard that.
Hadn't heard that name pop up.
I did hear Jeff Traylor after he beat Tulane sound pretty salty that John Summerall was getting all the love and he wasn't, but
he did seem a little frustrated.
Seemed a little salty about that. This one says, I guess John Cohen's car didn't start Saturday night. Might not have started this morning because it was so cold outside. But yeah, I guess it didn't. Based on the analogy we heard from him recently. Somebody says, how much do you think that Hugh Freeze's cancer treatment had to do with all that's going on this season? And I've seen a lot of people ask that question. I'll be the first person. I have no idea. And I know that when we talking with Cole yesterday, that was kind of his sentiment too. Of we understand the health situation that he's undergoing, and I understand that he turned down treatment before the season because he didn't want it to have an impact or distraction during this football season. Which I'll be honest, I think that's commendable, right? Like now. Would I make that personal decision? I don't know, but I mean, that's a man that clearly was saying, hey, I want to do the best job that I can this football season. I'm going to put my health on the back burner until the end of the season. So you certainly can't say that he wasn't putting Auburn first and ahead of himself in that regard. But I honestly couldn't tell you how big of an impact it's had on him. But I do think you can tell that it is affecting him. I think we can all agree that we can see that, but I'm not going to speculate on how much of an impact that's had, but hopefully, if there's one good thing that comes out of this, right, maybe this means that he is able to go and get that treatment now, and that will be beneficial for his long-term health, but I don't know about how much that's affected him this year. Let's see. Someone says, are Georgia and Auburn, or are Georgia and Alabama the front runners to land Cam Coleman now? I don't know. Maybe Ohio State. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, man. Okay. We are tying in Brian Kelly and DJ Durkin now. This text says, ouch. Auburn is the 6th best job opening right now. They aren't going to get their choice until LSU, Florida, Penn State, Virginia Tech, and Arkansas make hires. I do not agree with that. They are certainly better than Virginia Tech and Arkansas. I think you could make the argument that Auburn and Florida are maybe more comparable now. I certainly think LSU is a better job than Auburn, but I think Auburn's comparable with Florida and Penn State. I do not think it's worse than Georgia or Virginia Tech and Arkansas, though. It's definitely better than those. Nick from North Birmingham chimes in. Auburn needs a guy who will elevate the program back to national relevance like Kurt Cignetti or Dan Lanning in just a couple of years. I would still call Cignetti, Lanning, Golish, Kiffin, Schumann, Dillingham, and Eli Drinkwitz in that order.
Alex Golish is the first name that only because I'm an offensive guy.
Yeah.
And what he's done at South Florida, it's been very commendable. Like I think he's done a great job in his first time as a head coach. I just think it would be a big step, but if it all goes right, it could. He's not going to go out there and score 3 points against Kentucky. I'll put it like that.
Probably not. I will go and say this: wouldn't think Signetti would be interested because he just got a massive payday.
Nope.
At Indiana, so I don't think that one's going to happen, and I do not think that Dan Lanning. I'll be honest, I don't think Dan Lanning is going to leave for any college job that's not potentially Georgia one day, and I certainly don't think he's leaving Oregon as long as Phil Knight's alive and he has that thing rolling up there. Why would you? I think everyone else on that list. Well, I don't think Lane Kiffin's a real candidate either.
No. We got him.
But I think Golas, Schumann, Dillingham, and Drinkwitz are all guys that should be in play for Auburn, or guys that are at least discussed as potential candidates for that job. But we will see. Let's get to the phone lines real quick. Mix it up a little bit. Let's get to B-Ham Dog. He wants to chime in on Hugh Freeze. How we doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Man, what a beautiful morning it is, and I want to give glory to God for giving me a breath this morning. So with that being said, I don't have a DAWG in this fight, but my wife's an Auburn grad, so I have some vested interest. I know Durkin has some baggage, but gosh, man, Hugh Freeze has some baggage. Honestly, how many coaches out there don't have a little baggage? Here's why I wouldn't hire DJ Durkin. I wouldn't hire DJ Durkin if he went out and he won against Vandy and maybe had a great game plan against Alabama and played it close. I wouldn't hire him for that reason because I think emotions. We saw what UAB did after they fired Trent Dilfer, went out and beat Memphis, and then laid an egg the next week. So emotions, carry over. Here's why I would hire DJ Durkin. He's a defensive-minded coach, and I want you guys to do a little homework for me if you don't mind afterwards. He has found a way to keep that defense playing hard through some of the worst spots they've been put in all year. With that
no doubt.
How atrocious. And he has found a way to lead those teams, to motivate those guys to play at an elite level. To me, that goes beyond the X's and O's, and that goes more to leadership and motivation. And I think that's exactly what Auburn's missing right now, is leadership and motivation. Go back and look. Say the last five should be pretty easy because Alabama's probably won 6 or 7 of them. The last 10 national championships, were their teams head coach, defensive-minded head coaches, or offensive-minded head coaches, and what was the strong suit of that team that year? I know Harbaugh in Michigan he's an offensive guy, but that defense was pretty darn good. Shouldn't take too long if you can throw that out there. I'm just curious in the two. If you don't have time, it's all good. I can look it up later.
No, I appreciate you, B-Ham Dog. I think that's a good point. Thanks for chiming in this morning.
Ryan Day, offense.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh, offense.
Yeah, I was about to say Kirby and Nick.
Kirby and Nick are the only defense. LSU, Ed Orgeron. I mean, that was Joe Burrow.
He was a motivator.
Right. That was a strength and conditioning coach.
That was Joe Brady, so we'll go offense.
Dabo, Clemson offense.
Yeah.
And then Urban Meyer was the last one. And that's super offense.
I will say the one thing that, and I know that this stat's been brought up a number of times here recently, and people brought it up, of coaches that call their own plays typically don't win national championships. I know that's been a big topic of conversation of wanting a head coach at different openings and things like that. Of the same thing with Florida is, all right, let's go get somebody that can lead the program and go and find coordinators who can go out there and call plays and execute and have their own kind of game plan and things like that. So I know that's been a big factor in all of that as well. I would just say with DJ Durkin, I thought what BM Dog said, right, all coaches just about have baggage, but I do think that you have a situation where there are some people that look at it as, well, we just hired a coach with baggage. We saw how that worked out. Do we want to double dip in that arena and go back and now hire another coach with baggage? Because based on about half the text messages we've gotten this morning, there's a number of you that would not be in support of DJ Durkin because of something that happened when he was the head coach at a previous spot in the Big Ten now. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there. But we'll get to more of your reaction, more of your calls, more of your texts coming in, 205-834-9450. We continue the discussion on Hugh Freeze and the future of the Auburn football program. That's next on JOX. 6:49 here on your Monday morning. Reacting to Hugh Freeze being let go yesterday by the Auburn football program. So now Auburn, under the leadership of interim coach DJ Durkin, trying to get ready for Vanderbilt this weekend. But many of you keeping your eyes on the coaching search and who will be the next guy in charge of the Auburn football program starting in 2026. And it's going to be interesting just overall with, this is now the fourth job in the SEC to open up this year with LSU, Florida, and Arkansas. There's like about a dozen Power 4 jobs that are open right now, and more that will open up. I think it's safe to say by the time that it is all said and done. So we will see how that goes. Let's see. This person chimes in. They say, it is very irresponsible for y'all to gloss over the Durkin issue and tell people to Google it. Look, man, if you don't know what happened by now, that's not my fault. Like, again, go and Google it. We're not going to get into this guy's history on the radio show. You should probably know what it is by now if you're an Auburn fan. And if you're mad at us because Auburn hired him, we don't work for Auburn. We're not the people that hired him. Like, I understand if you have your problems and reservations with that guy being on staff at Auburn, but that's kind of out of our control. So I'm sorry, but I think we kind of all understand what the situation is, and we're not the ones that hired him. So that's Auburn. Let's see. This one text comes in from Marty from Detroit, Alabama. He says, would you give Jeff Lebby a look?
Nah.
I do not think that Jeff Lebby is going to be on the don't think Jeff Lebby's going to be on
But
that
hey,
list.
great win over the weekend, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First SEC win
Exactly.
in a while for Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Over an Arkansas team that's not very good. This text comes in. What offensive guru doesn't even show up to the quarterback meetings? Yeah, there's a lot of things that have come out and are going to become public knowledge that I think kind of paint a picture of maybe the little things not being executed on and handled the best on the Plains in recent time. This one comes in. It says, we don't need a coordinator. We need a head coach.
You don't say.
Well, there's a lot of interesting candidates out there. Let's see. John says, okay, so if Glenn Schumann would be a candidate, why not DJ Durkin? Well, because of the things that have happened in DJ Durkin's past. I don't know if, that's something that they want to sign up for. But I think we can all agree that he's done an excellent job with the defense this year. So I understand why that's a question for a lot of people. Somebody says, what about Brent Key? I think Brent Key would be another great candidate.
I'd like to see it. I wouldn't mind.
He's done an incrable job at Georgia Tech. I don't think there's
you want to talk about somebody making a culture different?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that he's done that. Let's see. Pappy John texts in. He says, y'all need to send John Cohen the contact information for Donahue Auto. Because apparently his car didn't start.
Okay.
Let's see. Somebody says, if Cutter Boley hadn't made that terrible pass before half, that's the only reason that Auburn even scored 3 points on Saturday.
Fair enough.
Fair. Somebody else just said the same thing. If it wasn't for Melendez's interception, would you have even scored on Saturday? Maybe not. This text comes in. It says, I think Hugh's biggest downfall at Auburn was his choice of QBs. We really were close, but the league is run on quarterback play, and let's just say he never came through with someone that's capable of being a winner in the SEC.
And again, to that point, if Peyton Thorne hears this, I want to sincerely apologize. It wasn't all on you. A lot of it was, but not all of it was on you. You actually were a lot better than the people that have come behind you.
Uh-huh.
So it's okay. Maybe it wasn't you.
It
was though.
Yeah, but in hindsight, maybe not as bad as we thought he was. Let's see. This text says, I think it was a good move. Auburn struggled a lot. I'm a huge Auburn fan. I would love to have Lane Kiffin, but there's no way that's going to happen. I honestly think it will be James Franklin. From what I understand, James Franklin is not in heavy consideration right now, but I guess everything could change.
What about Mike Gundy?
Don't think that one's going to happen. This one says, it looked to me that the offense gave up and was over Coach Freeze. I would not be surprised if you see a totally different team under DJ to end the season. Maybe so. Maybe so. This one says, we need an SEC coach at Auburn. You saw what happened with Brian Harsin.
Billy Napier.
This one says, I want Coach O. The interviews alone are worth the money. War Eagle and go Tigers. All right, I like it. Well, we appreciate you joining us. Mac and Cube in the morning. They're up next.